personally speak to you guys directly about our summer programs so that we can give you guys a much clearer idea of what it is we're offering and speak to each of our individual areas that we're covering. But before that, I'd like to just introduce the three of us. For those of you who don't know us or don't know all of us. So to start with, we have our head coach extraordinaire, Melanie Ju. Say hello.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, so Mel's had a very long and distinguished hockey career. She grew up in the local area and attended Cornell University, where she not only played varsity ice hockey, but also field hockey as a goalie. So she won many awards there and moved on to actually a coaching career. She coached for a number of years before being invited back as a player onto the first ever Chinese professional team, Kunlun Red Stars. And most recently, she was the assistant coach for Team China at the World Championships, winning first place. So that she's had many, many more accomplishments, but that's kind of the high-level overview of her career trajectory. Underneath her is on the screen is Rachel Lanes. She's our partner. Her company, Train, Perform, Repeat, is strength and conditioning, and her career started quite late. Actually, she didn't start playing hockey until she was 12. So, for those of you out there who are wondering if you started a little later than others and you're not sure, if you will be able to play competitively, as long as you putting in your work and you're working with get some good coaches, anything is possible. So Rachel went to Northeastern and has played how many years professional at this point? A lot.
7
years professional and has won the championship trophies in the CWHL, the NWHL, and the Russian WHL league. So a triple crown there for her, and was also the strength and conditioning coach for Team China, as well as the professional KRS team. So she's had a ton of professional experience, both playing hockey as well as handling the off-ice training portion.
I'd also like to add that Rachel is the only athlete to have ever done that, to win a championship in all 3 leagues. I don't think there's another athlete that's done that, and she also just won a world championship as well. So she's pretty decorated as a
quadruple crown.
Triple crown, yeah.
It's super cool, yeah. a lot of nice medals in the case.
You're running out of room there on your trophy shelf.
Gotta get a bigger one.
Yeah. And for those of you who don't know me, my name is Kimberly Newell. I grew up playing boys in the local area, went to Princeton University, where I was the starting goalie for 4 years. And I think I still hold the record for the most career saves at Princeton, as well as the most wins. I actually retired from hockey for 2 years, but was called back in to play for the Chinese Kunlun Red Stars professional team for the last 4 years. And just recently competed in the Olympics for Team China. So we're all super excited to be partnering together and just bringing you all the different aspects, the on-ice skills, the off-ice training, as well as the goalie specific stuff. So Without any further ado, just want to say, anyone have any questions, please type it in the chat. We'll be answering those at the end. And I think a lot of them will kind of be answered as we go along. But those that aren't, we will get to them at the end of this. So with that, I will pass it off to Mel, who will take it from there.
So one of the common questions that we've had so far is, why is our program, why is our program over 7 weeks? Why are the ice times not every day? And a bunch of those other questions. So we'll break it down one by one. One of the reasons we wanted to do a 7-week program is we want to get the athletes introduced to what typically either college player or pro player does in this off season to sort of train. Making sure that, and I think, Rachel and Kim can speak to this as well. We've all been to those week-long camps, and they're great and they're super fun. But by Wednesday, everybody's burnt out, and you're not really getting the full value of really developing. I would liken it almost to cramming for a test versus preparing over, a long period of time. Your retention in your skill, your retention in your ability to do things, and your output level are just higher over a longer period of time. So that's why we chose the 7 weeks. Why ice times aren't every day. Again, Rachel will speak to this a little bit, but recovery is really important. It's not about more is better. It's about making sure you're doing high quality. You could be doing something 1,000 times, but if you're doing it 1,000 times wrong, you're just getting 1,000 times worse at doing that thing. So we really believe in high value programming and making sure that our athletes are really dialed in and intentional in everything that we do. So again, more ice time is not always better. One of the other questions we have is, why do we have an application process? So it's kind of a 3-pronged approach. One is, again, one of the biggest reasons that we put this program together is we want to develop athletes that are engaged in their development and they are engaged in the process. You're not just signing up and then we're talking at you. We want you to be engaged. We want you to take initiative and really kind of and start to control the experience that you want and search for the knowledge to get better. So that's one of the biggest things. The other reason is so that we can kind of get to know you. We want to get a head start on how we can help you, where your goals are, where some gaps in your development might be, and sort of cater it towards that. Again, it's highly value driven and we're not just a factory. We're not just pumping kids out. We really are invested in each of the athletes that is in our program, and we care deeply. And so we want to get to know you on a personal level and see how we can serve you best. And one of the last thing is that I think it's a cool metric to be able to see the answers that you put in your application process before we take the program, and then reflect and take those same questions at the end of the program, and just seeing how that changes. And the expectation is that all numbers are going to go up, and that's not necessarily the case. There's some things where you just learned that you don't know things. You start to learn the things you don't know. And that's hopefully what happens with our program, where if you come in and you think you know a lot about on-ice skills, and maybe you rate yourself as a 4 or a 5, and when you leave our camp, you're rating yourself as a 2 or 3, that's not a bad thing. Again, it's just increasing your awareness and developing that side of your game. So I think that's probably one of the biggest differentiators for our program. In terms of the on-ice skills that we're going to be doing, it's a progressive program over the 7 weeks. And Rach, maybe you can speak a little bit about my methodology, since you've had firsthand experience with it after this. But again, really engaging our athletes in the development process and making sure that if I do my job correctly, they'll know how to correct themselves. I want to help these athletes learn how to learn. So I am teaching hockey skills, but more so I'm teaching them how to learn so that they can, again, feel empowered to ask questions and really hone in on their own development, because again, they are their own voice. They have to vouch for themselves. They have to recognize what works and what doesn't work. And this camp is hopefully what starts them on that journey. So yeah, I mean, I'll pass it on to Rach, and Rach, if you want to just talk a little bit about, your off-ice stuff, but before that, what it's been like training with me and how it's been different, I guess.
Yeah, I'm going to apologize if you guys hear my corgi bark in the background. He's still being trained. So if that happens, I'm probably going to mute myself for a sec. But for now, we should be okay. But when Mel's talking, it's super refreshing to hear her speak these words, because when she coaches me, not much is actually said. It's into the details. It's very much more about how you doing, how you feeling, where am I at, and meeting me there. And not just the way she coaches has been completely different from anyone I've ever worked with before, because I won 2 championships, like she said, or Kim said, in the NWHL, CWHL, early in my pro career. Those championships didn't mean much to me in terms of, obviously it's awesome to win a championship. It's even better when you feel like you had a big part of it. I feel like I was more along for the ride in those championships because I was behind US and Canadian national team players. So I had a role on the team, and it wasn't a scoring role. It wasn't a role I liked. Now bringing it into the Russian Hockey League, I felt that season, it was the first season I actually only worked with Mel a little bit. And like she said, quality over quantity, it's all it took. We would go over game tape, and then we'd clean up whatever we needed to clean up, and it just led into the next game. And I had the most successful season that season. And obviously that championship meant a lot more to me than the other ones did. Not just because, I had a big role in it, but just because I saw all my hard work and even working smarter just, come to fruition. It was like, wow, where have you been my entire career? I wish I would have met you earlier, but at the same time, I wouldn't have been ready to hear what she would have to say. I would probably be more so like, yeah, whatever. I'll try some things here and there. When I worked with her, I had to throw everything I knew out the window. It was like half of our training was me unlearning everything, which, from her words, I didn't have to unlearn a lot, which for me, I think, and Kim said it before, was I had good coaches growing up who didn't hammer me with specific ways to do anything. They were very and I love using the term experimental learning. I had coaches like that who were just like, feel free to do whatever you want and be creative. I just needed a little bit more structure growing up, because if you look at my game 3 years ago compared to now, I'm just all over the place, working really hard. It looks really good to college coaches, probably like, wow, that kid's fast. And Mel's just like, that face. But she's just like, yeah, you could be so much better and not have to work as hard. And to me, I was like, okay, well, what do you mean? And she literally took me after practices. We worked on a couple of things, and all of a sudden I'm one of the leading scorers on the team. And I'm just like, okay, well, I guess I'll stick with you forever. So, and I think the best part about it was she taught me how to learn, where traditionally growing up, you're told what to do. And that's what I think, I'm a soldier in that way, where you tell me what to do, I will do it 100%. I will go through a wall for any coach who told me to do that. Now I'm more just like, does that make sense to me? And if it doesn't make sense, I'm not afraid to ask a question. And the way Mel has just kind of taught me how everything works within just hockey development, it's its own thing. People like to say oh, we can't put things into boxes. No, what we're doing here is in our own territory compared to a lot of other skill coaches, strength and conditioning coaches. It really is. And I'm all for sharing information and taking, things from here and there. But a lot of what we're saying, it's really hard to merge with other things. Say I do something with Mel, and then I go to a different camp and some coach is telling me something different. It's hard to merge it like that, because the way she teaches you how to learn, now you're second guessing other things. and you'll find yourself in the middle being like, wait, what's right, what's wrong? What's right is more like what felt better and what's working. And I think a lot of coaches look too much at, oh yeah, that shot looks great, look, it's going fast, it's going to the target, you're doing this great, but am I able to become a better hockey player? Am I actually seeing results in the season? And with those week-long camps, I can't say that any of those camps growing up actually, one of them helped me to get to where I was. It was just like a stepping stone along the way. So yeah, I'm kind of ranting on a little bit, but basically just going off what Mel said, that I can talk about mine and Mel's coaching relationship for days because it's had that much of an impact on me in only 3 years compared to my, I started hockey when I was 12. Like, the fact that I've been able to pick so much up and just scratching the surface of it in only 3 years, it should be more exciting for you guys because you're so young and you're getting this resource given to you here. Like, just having this access is amazing, and I wish I had it when I was your age. So just going into the strength stuff, again, Mel and Kim have been tremendous people to be around. I never surrounded myself with people like them before because they go against the grain in everything they do. It's like they question everything, and even if they don't do it in front of you, you could tell like there's things going on in their minds that they're just like, there's other ways, and they just see that other side of things. So when I first started training the Cumberland Red Stars, I had to train both Kim and Mel, and that was quite an adventure because they're not traditional athletes. They don't just do what you tell them to do. And if they are doing what you're saying, they're just like showing it to just be like, hey, I'm gonna get out of here. And I didn't want that. I wanted them to, how Mel said, enjoy your learning process. Really like feel empowered and in control of what you're doing. It's your development, it's your body, it's your careers, it's your money. Why not be in full control of that? So I had to come into the weight room and talk to each of them more than I would actually train them in the beginning. And finally, we kind of got to the point where, hey, this makes sense. And now just kind of leading into what's different. I guess I would have to know what you've been through in terms of strength and conditioning. But what I do is basically how Mel is talking about her whole learning process. I educate, I teach, I don't tell. And I can tell you before I met these two, that wasn't the case. I was very traditional in what I was preaching. I would kind of just give people programs and be like, you want to get stronger, faster, more powerful, like here's the way to do it. And that would, I would get results from that. And, my athletes did like it because they were working hard and they saw results I was getting and they were getting results too. And I was okay where I was at until I met these two. And I was like, there's a lot more to this than just being stronger, being faster, being more powerful. And what does that even mean, really, in terms of hockey? I get a lot of players coming to me saying, my coach says I need to be stronger. I don't know what that entirely and that means, because when I see that person on the ice, I'm like, you're actually holding your own. I don't know why they're saying you need to be stronger to be faster and all that stuff. So a lot of my stuff is very contextual. I don't do the traditional weightlifting model, if you're calling it. Say you come into a weight room, hey, we're doing a squat, we're doing a bench today. You're going to get a lot of that in any setting you go to, especially if it's a team setting. I don't do it that way. I treat everyone where they're at individually. So I call it a training age. You could be a physical specimen and have all this experience in the weight room. Your training age is probably going to be a little bit higher than someone who just started or who's never worked in a weight room or who's never been with a coach, a qualified coach before. So I have to meet you where you're at. And I know probably with a group of 20 people would find that difficult, but again, I want to get to know you because I care. I care about what I'm saying to you. I care about what you're learning from me. That can't happen without me actually getting to know you and you getting to know me. So just on that level alone, that's a big difference, separating myself from other strength coaches. The other big thing is I don't place any emphasis on numbers. I don't care how much you lift. I really don't. I don't care how fast you are. I care about you performing at your sport, whether that be hockey or any other sport. Okay. well, you want to get better at hockey. How can we make you get better at hockey? That doesn't mean I do sports like hockey specific things. I just find ways to overall make you a great athlete. People who play other sports, and Mel's played dual sports at Cornell, which is unbelievable with a course workload too. And she is a specimen of an athlete. It just, doesn't look that efficient, but she finds a way to get it done. She finds a way to win. Like, you need a Melju on every single team. But for your sake, I do recommend everyone play as many sports as possible, obviously, until you decide, college, I'm going for this sport. But yeah, again, I don't place any emphasis on those numbers. I'm more placing emphasis on your ability to move. If I watch you run and you have pain, if I watch you play a game, like say tag, and you can't make a change of direction as quick as you feel like you should, and I feel like you should, that's something that goes off in me. I'm like, okay, that kid needs to work on this. And how do we work on that without using traditional weight room methods? I'm big into, and all summer you guys are going to be on the turf with me. So you're going to get a lot of your training through partner reactive work. So you're going to be working with partners, you're going to be working with groups, because it's all contextual. It all has to do with what you're doing within your sport. In the weight room, you're with a team, but you're by yourself. You're doing work by yourself. And I don't think that contextually transfers over to sports. So yeah, I mean, just expect to have a lot of fun with what we're doing, but I think these two can attest to how much focus you need, especially because I've been able to do both, train people on and off the ice, and then obviously worry about my on ice contributions. So it takes a tremendous amount of focus, and I hope to relay that to you guys in what we're doing. And just something new, get out of your comfort zone, start actually interacting with each other more than just seeing each other on the ice, and bringing over what we do on the turf and seeing how it directly transfers to what Mel and Kim are both saying. And just making you guys specimen athletes is basically my goal for any athlete I work with. And basically, if I were to like take any one of my athletes that I work with in the summer, I would hope to take them into any sport and for them to be decent and figure out a way to complete tasks within any other sports. And they just happen to be pretty good hockey players too. So, yeah.
Cool. Thanks for sharing that. Can you just touch briefly on, we have another partner coming to do some soft tissue work with the girls. What is soft tissue therapy? How is that going to benefit the athletes, and how does that integrate with what you're doing in your off-ice training?
So you guys are going to work with Paul. I've worked with Paul since I was in China. He's also been a growth factor for me. But basically, he's a neuromuscular therapist. He works on, basically, I think people and athletes, they go to massage therapists because something's wrong. They're really sore, they're injured. That's not, we use Dr. Paul because maybe you do have an injury or maybe you do have something aggravating, but basically I use him as a resource to keep me healthy so I don't have to deal with injuries, or if I do have an injury or something, happens. He also educates you on how to troubleshoot your own body. So if you have something aggravating, instead of going to see a doctor or see someone, you troubleshoot yourself and see if you can fix it on your own. And then if it's still aggravating, well, you have Dr. Paul as a resource. And,
disclaimer, he's not an actual doctor.
Sorry, that's his nickname. Paul.
He's a licensed massage therapist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he will do a baseline assessment, which he'll look at certain movements that, like just say walking, and he'll kind of point out what we call compensation patterns. So if you do something like hockey for a long time, your body is going to look and move a certain way. And it's okay for hockey, when you're on the ice, to be in that pattern. But when you're off the ice, you don't necessarily want to live there, because then you're overworking the same muscles you're using for your sport. So what Paul does is
he kind of brings you back to a neutral position where you're not living in your performance position. So he's working on bringing you back. But in doing so, he helps you actually improve your performance positioning by, if we're not overworking that, just by doing too much work and living there, then we're able to holistically, work on weaknesses throughout the body that are just going to help you perform in your sport. So with me, I don't usually have any issues in the season. He's taught me how to troubleshoot myself, but that's 4 years of working with him. I would say if you guys are going to get a baseline, you're going to really learn about your body and understand that there's a big difference between discomfort and pain. And knowing the difference is huge for recovery. So again, from a recovery standpoint, you're going to learn basically how to not or not get hurt, but how to fix yourselves and how to know where to feel. Like I feel 100% almost every day. Like when I train, I drop my percentage down, but I recover because of knowledge I've learned from his soft tissue therapy and from my background. And I'm able to bring myself back to 100 so I can continue to perform. So I work with him closely in programming. So when you get your baseline assessment, me and Paul talk to each other. Hey, this kid might have problems going on, ankle problems, and I'll take that into account when I train you. So individually, we're in a group, but individually, I'm able to kind of give you your own things and make sure you're on the right path. And I definitely recommend working with him as much as you can when he's there and taking full advantage. Asking him any questions about the body. This is obviously a very general overview. When you hear him speak, it's going to go way more into detail, but basically just another asset to have in terms of helping with recovery and making sure you're on the ice and there's no problems. All you have to do is show up and be ready to learn.
Awesome. Kim, do you want to jump in and let the goalies know what they're going to be working on?
Yeah, so for the goalies, what we're going to do is we're going to cap it at 3 goalies per group so that you guys can get some really focused attention. Every session, we're going to have 15 minutes goalie world at the beginning where we'll be focusing on a specific skill or scenario and really breaking down the fundamentals and progressing that. And what you'll realize is that with something even as simple as, for example, a shuffle, that you think, okay, this is one of the first things that I'll learn as a goalie. But as you progress and you get to higher and higher levels, you realize that a shuffle is not just a shuffle. There's so much more to it. And a lot of it goes to what Mel and Rachel have been speaking about understanding the why. It's not just about being able to shuffle. It's, okay, why am I using the shuffle in this situation? Are there different ways to do the shuffle, right? What am I focusing on that's actually going to improve the way that I'm shuffling? And so something that can seem very simple actually becomes something that you need to come back to really create a solid foundation from which to work from. So for goalies, the on-ice portion, we'll be doing those 15 minutes for every single session. And then whatever we're focusing on in that session, I'll be talking to Mel directly. So we'll be kind of planning our practices together. And this is something that I don't think anyone else really does at all, where we're going to have the drills for the rest of that session be an extension to what the goalies are working on in those first 15 minutes. So the 15 minutes is really a chance for me to have the goalies really just have you guys understand what it is that we're working on, try it out. We'll kind of integrate it into a few different scenarios. And then the progression to that will be moving into drills with players where now those drills are actually going to enact those scenarios in a much more kind of game-like environment. So in that way, it's really going to be a fun collaboration between goalies and players. And it goes both ways too, right? Because it's kind of an arms race where as goalies, we need to know what players are doing. And the same thing for players, as Mel's trying to teach them how to score. us being goalies, we can provide a lot of insight into that. And so we're both helping each other while at the same time trying to shut down the other side. So that's the on-ice portion for the goalies. And then I thought, an important piece that isn't quite addressed in the rest of our program, I really wanted to do some goalie-specific Zooms with you guys. I think that there's a number of elements that are really specific to the position that do need to be kind of laid out and really discussed in more detail. And so just a few of those things will be vision training. So being able to track that puck. A lot of issues that goalies run into, they think that maybe it's their body positioning, or maybe it's their hands, but actually it's their eyes. Their eyes can't track the puck, and therefore they're compensating in other ways to still try to make that save. Another super important area would be hand-eye coordination. I think this is probably one of the more common ones that people know about. How to train that off the ice, how to use that to kind of prepare. I have my own warm-up that I do separately from the rest of the team before games. And so I'll be giving you guys insight into what that looks like, and the why between each of the steps. Then another super important area is the mental skills. And Mel will be speaking to this a little bit more right after this, but for goalie specifically, you're in the net for the entire game. And so no matter what happens, you have to be ready, and you have to have the right tools that, whether you're having a great game or whether you're having a not so great game, whether you're making big saves or, maybe a goal just went in, how do you handle that? How do you prepare yourself to make that next save, no matter how the last 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 50 minutes of the game has gone, right? So that's super, super important. Your entire team is counting on you, and your performance is going to make a difference in the game. So that's just a little bit of insight into a few of the topics that I really think are important to cover in these goalie-specific Zoom sessions. So with that, Mel will be talking about what we have planned for our mental skills portion.
So we're incredibly lucky to have Jane Hundley come on board for some of our mental skill sessions. And she'll be running the athletes through a couple of different assessments. I think we're going to get the girls to do a disc assessment as well, which again is just a little bit of a personality breakdown and seeing how you kind of operate as a human being. It's kind of funny because I've always been very interested, I guess, in the mental side of the game, and introducing both Kim and Rachel to it a little bit later in their careers. It'll be interesting to hear what they have to say about their experience with Jane. But basically, Jane is an incredible resource for her. She's a psychologist. She works with a ton of Fortune 500 companies. She works with Boeing. She's worked with CEOs from Microsoft. And again, she worked with myself initially, and then I introduced her to both Kim and Rachel. But basically what she does is she teaches awareness, and she teaches presence, and she teaches you to understand a little bit more about yourself. And again, our program is about empowering our athletes and making sure that they are set when they approach game time. But again, most importantly in life, one of the biggest things she helped me with is just recognizing what my triggers were, how to manage those triggers, how to overcome them, and kind of go and perform at a higher level there in a better mental space. As athletes, we are overcome with so many different variables and a lot of distractions. And we're often told that, you have to be mentally tougher. You have to, dig deep or do all these other, just, I don't know.
How do you do that, right?
Pardon?
But the key is, how do you do that?
Exactly. Yeah. We're often told to be mentally tough and be gritty and all these things, but we're never actually given a framework in how to manage that. So with Jane, and then we will also be running some other mental skill sessions as well. We will teach our athletes to sort of start to discover themselves and ask better questions and manage their emotions a little bit better, but also developing a framework for on ice performance. So again, trying to round out the athlete experience, and if being a high performing person is in your is one of your goals, I guess, and then also being a good hockey player. This is, I think, one of the single-handedly most important things you can do for your game. And again, I'll let Rachel speak first about her experience with Jane, and then Kim, you can jump in there at the end.
Like Mel said, to be an elite anything, you have to be mentally tough to go through, everything basically, and keep pushing through to make yourself a better athlete and find success in your career. Jane was I guess, that last piece of mental skills for me that was able to get me over the hump of competing against myself. I realized that I wasn't competing against other people. It was more I was battling with myself in terms of, whether it was practice and being so hard on myself and being frustrated with myself, not knowing like how to control my emotions. And if you honestly watch any of our games in 2017, you're going to see like I had a lot of penalty minutes. So big for me when Mel told me about this, it was kind of perfect because I actually have never worked specifically with any mental skills coach. So I didn't really know what I was going to get into. So I didn't have any previous bias towards it. So when I did work with Jane, I was surprised with how just how personal she was in her ability to communicate with me and understand me at a level that, it's just hard in this day and time where you find people who can actually communicate with you and dig down deep and figure out and teach you basically your barriers and how to overcome them. So just working with her and knowing the things I am in control of and how to overcome any obstacles that come my way. It's been like kind of just that next step in my career. That's apart from working with Mel. That's been huge for me. And just even this last year, you can see the trials and tribulations both our China team went through, and even in the Olympics, actually at every step of each season, I've hit walls where I'm like, oh man, like, how do I get by this? But I remember my sessions with Jane and just remembering what we've gone over and, how to deal with certain things, has helped me push through and not be as stressed with myself and being able to compete. Like Mel and I used to work with each other before every game. She would just work with me. We do a warm up together, and then we would do our mental skills training with each other. And that was where, you go from extremely focused to just extremely just empowered to play your best, because we knew what to say to each other based on what we had learned through Jane. So just even again, I worked with her for a couple of sessions, and that was another big stone for me and continuing, and why I'm able to continue my career. I'm 31 now, and I'm hoping to just keep going. I think Jane's learning from Jane is just gonna, there's nothing in my way except for me, and that's what I've picked up from her. So.
Yeah, I would say, so I worked with Jane a little over a year and a half ago initially to just learn what Mel was talking about, like what my triggers were. And really the way to think about it is like, I'd had some exposure to kind of sports psychology earlier on as I was going through like Team Canada program. And most of the stuff I was exposed to was focusing on how to get into the zone, how to perform. And, that stuff is all good and great. But what really stops you is when things are not going great, right? When things are happening, whether it's related to the team or related to like the coaches, or maybe things like your performance is not going great, or it could be life things, right? There's so many things going on, especially if you go to college and you're a student athlete and you have to, worry about, going on courses, and you're also got to train, and you're on road trips, and maybe you're living away from your parents for the first time, and so there's a lot to kind of handle there. And so a lot of times it's those blocks that it takes a lot of self-awareness to even know what it is that's stopping you, what it is that is this roadblock in the way. And so that's the first step, even just identifying what it is that's there, and for you to even begin knowing, okay, how do I handle this? What can I do? And what's out of my control? And I just need to, focus on the things that I can control. And so I actually worked with Jane a second time this past winter when I broke my ankle. I was, obviously going through a very difficult time trying to see if it was possible for me to make it back at all for the Olympics. And so I was going through surgery and rehab, and I was flying to the US, and I was basically there on my own, trying to like figure all this stuff out and figure out how I was going to get back to the team, and go to make my way back to China. And everyone was all concerned about me, and I was telling them like, oh, don't worry, I'll make it there, but in my own mind, I obviously had my doubts and worries, and I didn't know if I was going to make it, even though I was telling these people that they shouldn't worry, right? So that's where I felt, what, I need to take some time here and really just process a lot of the stuff that I've been going through, and go back to a lot of the stuff that we had worked on a year ago. And so talking to her, it was just like she gave me some additional tools and reviewed some of the stuff that we had kind of worked on in the past, and just built off of that. And it helped me work through a lot of that stuff, whether it was both like kind of life stuff and stuff that we had all sort of all the challenges we had kind of gone through in the season to get to that point, so that I could be centered, so that I could focus on what I needed to do, that there was nothing else I needed to worry about. I just had to do my rehab and take it step by step. And so I credit a lot of my ability to kind of work through that stuff and get to the Olympics, and be not just get there, but feel like I was actually ready. And that's something that's you can't even really put a finger on it, because it's just like, I didn't even play a game. Like, I broke my ankle, I didn't even play a single game since breaking my ankle. I haven't played in a single game for 2.5 months, and here I am on the ice playing in the Olympics, and it's go time. So just mentally being prepared for that, and being able to just process all of those negative emotions and negative thoughts that are coming up, and everything that's going on when you're in the Olympic Village. It's a lot. And so I think it was so, so important for me to have worked with Jane during that time while I was rehabbing, so that I was ready for that. And I'd also just like to quickly say that during that time, I also worked with Dr. Paul. He helped me in my rehab, and I have so much respect for him and what he does. We're always talking about understanding the why and knowing yourself. And it's the same thing, whether it's the on ice or the off ice or the goalie training or the soft tissue or the mental skills. It's like, if you understand yourself better, not only will you see benefits from whatever work you're doing with that professional, but moving forward, those benefits are going to stick, because you understand it, the why, and you're going to build off of that, right? I'm sure some of you may have experienced this, where you go to someone and it's like, oh wow, I feel better, but then a couple of weeks later it's gone, and you're like, oh, I don't know what it was they did, but it seemed to work temporarily, right? And, you know, that's not what we're about. We want to build something. This is also the reason why we structured the program the way we have with the 7 weeks, is we want to give you guys the knowledge, the understanding, and we want to give you guys the power to really direct your own path and your journey and build something meaningful and worthwhile. So I uh, personally have benefited tremendously from both Jane and Dr. Paul in the mental skills side of things, as well as kind of the soft tissue and healing that ankle injury. And without that, I don't know if I would have even made it back to the Olympics, let alone, you know, had the experience and performance that I did. So,
yeah. I think one of the biggest things too is just recognizing that everyone has limits, and the limits of everyone aren't necessarily technical or tactical or even physical. Most of it always comes down to your mental ability. Even the player with the most ambition on the planet, the most talent, the most skill, when the doubt comes, it affects the way you play. And if you don't have the tools to manage that, if you don't have the awareness of yourself to recognize your triggers and how to deal with them, everything else falls to the wayside. It does not matter. So making sure, again, the way that we have this program is that holistic development and getting every single corner that you could possibly need to succeed, not just as a hockey player, but again, just being a high performance person. And then you will, you know, if you have those habits and you have all the tools, you will likely become a high performance hockey player as well. But that is a secondary to the kind of person that you become. So yeah, I guess we'll just toss it out to questions or anything like that.
yeah, so first off, I would just like to clarify. So, all of the mental skills and the soft tissue stuff, those are for the college U18, U15 programs. We really want to create a comprehensive, progressive program for those age groups, because we feel that at those ages that the athletes are ready to take their game to the next level and to really invest in themselves. For our U13 programs, we have the on ice portion and the off ice portion. And we have a bit of a different focus for that. We think that we really want them to lay the foundations for their later development. And that will come in the form of the on ice skills, as well as kind of Rachel just prepping them. Because it's super important, right? Like, we want the kids to be engaged with playing hockey, and you know, who knows what life will hold. But I think that with that approach, that we really want them to start thinking about things a little bit differently. And the other thing I wanted to mention briefly is for anyone who's not in the local area, that we would really love to have you guys, if you're willing to come out here, just send us an email at empowerhockey@gmail.com, and we can work with you to make some arrangements for that. So with that, we've had some questions in the chats. I know Mel's been answering some of them, but we can address some of them more directly. Please throw any in if there's anything else you guys want to ask. So, I would say big one, how many players are we going to have in each camp, each time slot? Mel, you want to take that?
How many kids we're gonna have? Yeah. So again, we want to keep it pretty intimate, while we're also recognizing that having a good number of players out there gives us a little bit more diversity with the skills that we can run with our drills. Less drills, sorry, more of our sequences. So again, we've got different ice sessions with different age groups and different. So the cap will be 18 to 20, depending on the age and the rink.
Yeah, so max 3 for goalies. We want the goalies to be getting enough shots and also a chance for me to give them some feedback. So that number is including the goalies or
Not including the goalies.
not including the goalies? Okay. And then our U18, U15 programs will be on a full ice sheet, and our U13 programs will be at the BWC activity ice, which is like a 3/4 / 2/3 size sheet. So still a pretty decent size. We have a question here about the mental training sessions. So we are planning to record the mental skills sessions and make that available for the participants only. We are also planning to uh, release a mental skills workshop that will be separate from the summer program. So if you guys want to just do the mental skills portion, you can sign up for that, and we'll be coming out with that shortly. We just wanted to see how we're going to kind of structure that to most benefit you guys. We think that especially for the older age groups, but even the younger ones, right? Like I know that when I was growing up, one thing that I'm very grateful for is how my dad was very very consistent with providing me with kind of advice and feedback on kind of how to manage the mental side as a goalie, since he was a goalie himself. So I think even some of the younger kids can benefit from it. But we'll be doing that as a separate program, and we'll come out with more info on that. And then we have a question here about the different blocks. So we have 7 weeks, right? And we understand people have other commitments, summer schools, maybe other camps. So we wanted to make it more accessible for people by chunking it up. We have our first block, which is 3 weeks in July, second block, which is 2 weeks in the beginning of August, and then our third block, which is the next 2 weeks in August. So in that way, we want to, allow people to kind of come out and at least experience what it is that we're doing here, right? It's a completely different program from, we really tried hard to differentiate what we're doing and provide a holistic approach. So even if you aren't coming out to all 7 weeks, we are keeping in mind that some people may come out, say, to block 2 or maybe to block 3. And in that way, you might be kind of jumping into it a little bit more, but all the skills that you'll be learning, you can learn it in that week and go out and apply it. So that's kind of what our thought process is behind that. And so, yes, you can just sign up for 1 block, you can sign up for 2 blocks, or you can sign up for the full program and get that full program discount. And then what else do we have here? Yeah, so we have a question. So college U18, U15 will be female-only programs. We want to provide a space for female athletes to be treated as serious athletes and not as girls playing hockey. I think that's super important. But the U13 groups are co-ed, so anyone is welcome to register for those programs, girls and boys. And then we have a question on the neuromuscular therapy. So that's the massage therapy. The neuromuscular therapy is a specific approach or type of massage therapy. And the question is how important this is apart from just hockey, if this will make a difference in other sports, in recovery, in life in general.
I think, Rachie, if you want to speak to that one, that'd be great.
Yes, pain is not okay. If you're in pain, it's not normal. And people will say it's normal. It's not. So again, being aware of what the differences between discomfort and pain and how to fix yourselves, you're going to learn skills to obviously help enhance recovery and, prevent injuries, but also as the older you get, obviously longevity is a big part of my training program. And I want players to end their careers when they are ready to end their careers, not because of an injury or anything like that. So yeah, I take the skills from or the soft tissue from Paul, integrate it into the off ice training, and yeah, definitely you can take it into any aspect of life, especially if injuries happen, pain happens, but you'll get the why and the how, and you'll learn to live without pain. And like in general, like we want to all be healthy, and we can't be healthy if we're in pain. So, yeah, big contribution from the soft tissue therapy.
I'll step in on that one a little bit too, because out of the three of us, I probably have had the most problems with my body. Again, I was not playing for 7 years. I retired in 2010 after I finished playing at college, and came back in 2017 to play professional hockey after spending 7 years coaching and doing all those sorts of things. So coming back was a baptism by fire, I guess, and I cannot say anything more highly to both about Rachel and Paul. They have legitimately kept me playing and kept me as pain-free as possible. Especially as young athletes, you're always told to play through the pain, and that is something that I do maybe better than anybody. I could have a limb falling off and I'll keep playing. But with that being said, like Rachel said, it's not normal, and it will linger with you for the rest of your career. And I think that's one of the biggest things that I've learned is there are things that you're going to do on the ice, which again are great and whatnot, but you also don't want to be limping for the next 20 years of your life because you didn't manage it correctly when you were younger. So the neuromuscular stuff, again, great for hockey, but honestly better just for well-being in general.
Yeah, and I'd like to add on to that because I had an injury my freshman year of college where I tore my adductor. So I tore my groin muscle, and I didn't know this at the time, but that dramatically changed how my body moved and what I was able to do. And so, over time, because it went untreated or untreated properly, that just accumulated. And I started playing in a way that just wasn't optimal. Like I found a way to make the saves, but when I got off the ice, it was like I had a lot of knee pain. Like I couldn't run. And it was like, and this is kind of where the mental skills come in because I think a lot of times we like as athletes don't trust what our own body is telling us. When we talk about pain, it's like pain's a signal that something's wrong. And when we're told by, coaches or other athletes or trainers that, oh, you're fine, there's nothing wrong with you, you learn to distrust yourself. And that's why we keep coming back to knowing yourself and knowing the whys to things. And so I had accumulated all these issues. And so when I came back and I started working with Rachel with the off ice, I kind of didn't think it, it's like, okay, you build some strength or, whatever, but this isn't really applicable to me playing goalie on the ice, right? Like, but I couldn't be more wrong. And I started to realize, wow, like there's a lot of things that I can't do, and that's not normal. And there are things that cause pain, and that's also not normal. And so it took a while, but we worked through all of that and got me to the point where I was like, wow, like I feel good. Like I feel like solid. And although I still have to manage that old injury and, give it some attention, loving, tender care, so to speak. um, but in a completely different place. I'm in a way better place than I was, even 2 or 3 years after this tear, right? Like the tissue's healed, but the body remembers that stuff. So like when Mel says this is, for the rest of your life, it really is like, you got to take these things seriously. And so I think I realized, wow, this off ice stuff and the soft tissue massage stuff is just, it's so, so, so important.
As athletes, we're really able to adapt, and that is also one of our biggest curses because your body will find ways to compensate. And again, you won't notice it because it is a small thing. It's a pebble in the shoe, and eventually it affects the way that you're able to play the game. And you might think that it's normal and whatnot, but it's, because you tweaked your ankle this one time and then you developed a little bit of a limp and then it threw this thing off, and then all of a sudden you're hunched over and you're skating and you don't know why. And it started, 2 or 3 years ago. So again, neuromuscular, can't speak highly enough about it. And what a difference it'll make, again, to the longevity of your game and also just the quality of life that you live. But yeah, do we have any other questions?
Any other questions? I don't think so. So I guess we can just wrap it up. We have all of the details on the schedule and the pricing on our website, which is empowerhockey.ca. You can also email us if you have any more questions at empowerhockey@gmail.com. And
follow us on Instagram.
Yeah, follow us on Instagram, empower_hockey. Right? Is that right? Empower_hockey?
You're the social media lady.
Oh. Yeah, so I just want to thank everyone for tuning in. I think that, we have a really special product here, and we're really, really excited. Honestly, I think the big thing for us, we want to provide as much value for you as possible, right? So each of us has our own skill set that we bring to the table. And so we really just want to make you better and give you the opportunities and the resources for you to do that. Any other last words, Mel and Rachel?
No, I think it's good we're ending because Rachel is disappearing into the darkness here. But yeah, thank you everybody that's tuned in for your time and your attention. Again, we really are passionate about what we're doing and trying to provide different options for these athletes. And also we welcome a lot of your feedback too. So again, reach out to us, whether email or Instagram or whatever it is. And yeah, we're always open for discussion and feedback. So
yeah, please let us know if there's any particular thing that we talked about here that you're like, wow, like that's exactly, what I need. Please let us know. We want to know how we can best help you. So
cool. Well, thanks everybody. Rachie, glad you're wearing white, pal.
And with that,
I have no words.
And with that, we'll conclude this. So have a good night, everyone. And we'll be sending out the replay for this video through the email, and we'll be timestamping it so you can kind of jump to whatever part you found most helpful.
Yeah, and feel free to share it as well.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right.